From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
It's official. One of the next members of Congress will be one of these women. We hear from both candidates on their plan to win the congressional seat.
And Dick's Sporting Goods is immediately halting the sale of assault weapons. We talked with some customers for their reaction on the decision.
Plus, a new take-home kit to fight drug overdoses in response to the opioid epidemic.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Adriana de Alba.
And I'm Troy Lynch. Thank you for joining us.
The race is on, and now there are two main candidates to replace Trent Franks in Arizona's 8th Congressional District. Reporter Emily Richardson tells us where the candidates plan to go from here.
The results from the primary special election came in around 10:30 last night. On the Democratic ballot, Haral Bernini won with more than 59% of the votes, and Debbie Lesko won with roughly 36% of the Republican votes. Congressional District 8 is considered one of Arizona's most conservative districts, meaning Debbie Lesko is favored to win in the general election. Bernini believes this might be the year a Democrat takes over the office because she says, unlike other politicians, she is a problem solver and willing to work on both sides of the aisle.
It's not about ideology. I'm not doing this to say, hey, look at the D and look at the R. It's about solving the problems and helping the families of CD8.
Debbie Lesko is also hopeful about her chances of winning.
This was a team effort, and I am so thankful. I am so blessed. Thank you, God, for this opportunity. Thank you to all of you. We're going to have a party in April, and we're going to get there too.
This is the first time since 2002 that this district's seat has been open. Former Representative Trent Franks resigned after allegations of sexual misconduct. In District 8, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
The general election will be held on April 24th.
Transgender Democratic candidate Brianna Westbrook may have lost the District 8 primary last night, but she's already gearing up to run again for the midterm election in August. Westbrook tweeted last night, quote, "To fight for you, the people, in August, I will need to collect an additional 1,600 signatures to have our name on the ballot."
The Phoenix City Council unanimously approved its proposed sexual harassment policy. With this policy, voters can petition to remove a member from the council for demonstrating, quote, bad behavior. If the employee is found guilty, it can result in termination. The policy also states confidentiality and retaliation protections by the individual who makes the claim. There's a push for a similar policy to go into effect on the state level as well.
President Trump held a meeting today to discuss the continuing gun control debate in hopes to create a bipartisan bill to put a stop to gun violence.
We have to do something about it. We now have to do something. We have to act. We can't wait and play games and nothing gets done. We're going to discuss safe schools, and we can really get there, but we have to do it.
Trump also discussed an executive order to ban bump stocks and raising the age to buy a gun from 18 to 21. Today, Arizona Senator Jeff Flake and California Senator Dianne Feinstein introduced a bill to raise the age required to buy assault weapons and magazines from 18 to 21. Students at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School returned for a half day today. It's been 2 weeks since 17 students were killed at the Florida high school. Administration says they're hoping to ease students back into a normal routine. The day started with 17 seconds of silence, and students placed flowers on empty desks in memory of their fellow classmates. And today, Dick's Sporting Goods announced that it will immediately stop selling assault-style firearms and high-capacity magazines. Cronkite News reporter Jake Epley says Arizona residents had strong reactions to this announcement.
Of the customers we talked to, some Arizona residents say they fully support Dick's Sporting Goods' announcement to ban assault-style weapons from their shelves.
It's one of the first news items I saw, and I felt like finally something might happen, that the winds could be shifting, and that somebody is paying attention to the poor students in Florida and in so many other places where these horrible assaults have gone on, and we need to put a stop to it.
Joan Dupnik said she plans to come back and support the chain any chance she gets.
I'll probably come by here more often, knowing that they are interested in the safety of our young people.
In 2012, after the Sandy Hook shooting, Dick's Sporting Goods took out assault rifles from all of their locations, eventually bringing them back into their Fields and Streams locations.
But gun rights activists said the retail giant will only turn off its customer base. Many Arizona residents called for a boycott.
It could be made up by those that are in favor of what Dick's Sporting Goods is doing, and they may go there to purchase other sporting goods items. So it's hard to say if it's truly going to be a net positive or a net negative for them, but I think it'll definitely reduce firearm sales for sure.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that this is finally going to be the thing that will turn the country around and make us see that we do not need assault weapons in the hands of people that don't deserve to have them and can't handle them.
In Tempe, Jake Epley, Cronkite News.
Dick's Sporting Goods has 9 Arizona locations. CEO Edward Stack says he supports the Second Amendment, but they felt that they had to take action against gun violence. The company also asked lawmakers to enact what they called common sense gun reform.
Governor Doug Ducey has said Arizona will not have sanctuary cities, and the Phoenix City Council also has rejected citizen petitions to become one. But a series of immigration raids in Los Angeles shows just how divisive the issue can be. Reporter Micah Bledsoe is live in our LA bureau with the details.
Though California's sanctuary law bars state and local police from cooperating with U.S. immigration authorities, a recent 5-day federal immigration sweep led to the arrest of more than 200 undocumented immigrants.
Don Rosenberg has been fighting against illegal immigration since his 25-year-old son, Drew, was struck and killed on his motorcycle in 2010 by an Honduran immigrant who entered the country illegally and later was granted temporary immigration status.
But what the state has done is said, we're going to protect those people. So when they let them out, the only thing that ICE can do is sweeps. And when they do that, it puts citizens at risk, it puts ICE agents at risk, and unfortunately, it puts those people here illegally that are trying to be, good people, it puts them at risk.
Last week, President Trump said he's considering withdrawing ICE agents from the Golden State.
I mean, frankly, if I wanted to pull our people from California, you would have a crime nest like you've never seen in California.
Rosenberg hopes Trump and the U.S. Justice Department will do what state and local police have not. But Rabbi Aryeh Cohen says he and several other groups will not stop working for undocumented residents in L.A. and other parts of the state.
ICE is not a police force, and so they don't have the same power of warrant that police forces do.
Cohen says ICE raids not only tear families apart, but also leave people in fear.
So when people live in fear, they no longer go out, they no longer come to church, they no longer go to cultural gatherings. There are rippling waves of impact of both detention and also the threat of detention.
Rabbi Cohen says he and members of Clue Justice will continue to plan demonstrations of solidarity. In Los Angeles, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
Training that could save lives. The new Arizona opioid law now allows anyone access to the drug that can reverse a drug overdose. Reporter Amanda Slee attended the training in Tempe and shows us the new impact of the new law.
Right now, possession of naloxone could be considered drug paraphernalia, but starting April 26th, under the newly passed Good Samaritan law, people can administer this drug in good faith. I got a chance to learn how these kits should be used in order to save a life. With more awareness of the opioid epidemic, organizations like Sonoran Prevention Works and Arizona State University's Students for Sensible Drug Policy are teaching people how to administer the life-saving drug naloxone or Narcan.
Every kit comes with 2 doses and 2 intramuscular syringes.
According to the Arizona Department of Health Services, 86% of overdose patients who were given naloxone before being taken to the hospital survived. And that's why training is so important.
This is something that's been going on for a while, and there's a precedent established already that this is in good faith in supplying communities and preventing overdoses.
The goal is to teach people how to detect an overdose and the steps to administer the reversal drug.
I definitely feel more confident and definitely more supported, because I know that there's this network of people that are also trying to, actively reduce, harm that affects people that are using drugs.
Organizations say training younger people can save lives because that's when many start to experiment with drugs.
People under 24 were 15% of Arizona's overdoses in 2016, which amounts to 108 out of 720 overdoses. So this is an issue that faces not only people that are 35 plus who are typically affected by this, but also people our age.
More than a dozen people were given kits during the training session. Overdose prevention classes and naloxone training are available through Sonoran Prevention Works. The next training is scheduled for March 29th in Oracle, Arizona. In the Broadcast Center, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Arizona basketball head coach Sean Miller is being investigated by the FBI for possible corruption.
Coming up on Cronkite News, the Arizona Board of Regents may be weighing in on his future with the Wildcats.
Plus, this Arizona family is showing the world how hoop dancing is helping to preserve their culture.
Managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland.
In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
The Arizona Board of Regents has called a special meeting tomorrow to discuss the future of Arizona basketball coach Sean Miller. This comes after a report that Miller was heard on an FBI wiretap discussing a $100,000 payment to a Wildcats freshman. Reporter Chancellor Johnson is tracking the latest.
When the news initially broke last week about Sean Miller's alleged conversation for the payment to DeAndre Ayton, a lot of eyebrows were raised. I had the opportunity to speak to sports agent Sam Renault, who says this happens a lot more than people think.
It's everywhere. It's something it's pretty commonplace. Not everybody's doing it, but there's enough where it really doesn't come as a surprise.
Sam Renault, now the assistant director of ASU Law's Sports Law and Business program, saw the dark side of money in sports firsthand over his 7-year career as an NFL agent trying to sign professional athletes.
There were some players who we were really interested in working with, and we found out that there was a price just to be able to sit down with them. And we weren't willing to do that. You know, some players would have a handler who would say, if you want to meet with my guy, you've got to give me $10,000, and then you get the chance to sit down with him and his family. It wasn't a promise to sign. It wasn't a promise to get any sort of future business relationship. It was just a promise to meet. And we were never willing to do anything along those lines.
In Miller's case, nothing has been officially confirmed. It's all based on an ESPN story, a story that, if it turns out not to be true, could put the reporter in hot water.
It is possible, if this conversation never occurred, if the conversation is not in a wiretap, and Sean Miller had no conversation whatsoever with Christopher Dawkins that was similar to this, that Miller could turn around and go after the reporter and his sources for defamation.
Lindstrom added, however, defamation is a lot harder to prove against a media outlet as long as that outlet is acting in good faith in its reporting. In the Media Center, Chancellor Johnson, Cronkite News.
The state of Arizona is taking a stance in a big case on sports gambling. When New Jersey tried to authorize sports gambling in 2014, the NCAA sued to block the law and won. As reporter Ariana Bustos tells us, that case has now been appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Illegal sports betting has been around for a while, and it will be. Another thing that didn't change are the basic philosophical arguments for and against whether we should have legalized sports betting in our state.
But Mike Bailey said as long as it's around, states' rights should trump federal regulation.
Look, it's happening, just like with any of these things. It's happening. It's dangerous. As long as it's happening, we can regulate it. We can make a little money for the state and get there.
He was speaking at a National Association of Attorneys General conference, which Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich could not attend today. Brnovich joined 20 other states who filed a brief in support of New Jersey, which wants state-regulated sports betting, a plan the Supreme Court is currently considering. Mississippi Attorney General Jim Hood, who is also a part of the brief, said it's not a partisan issue.
All of us Republicans and Democrats agree upon as states' rights, and that the states should make decisions, particularly with issues like gaming within our states, instead of Congress trying to dictate to the states what we can and cannot do.
He said states like Arizona should look forward to state-sponsored sports betting soon.
If you're in one of those states, you better get ready, because your lawyers are going to be busy trying to establish a regulatory scheme for sports betting.
Reporting from Washington, Ariana Bustos, Cronkite News.
Mourners gathered today at the U.S. Capitol, where the late Reverend Billy Graham lay in honor in the rotunda. Graham died at the age of 99 last week after decades of advising presidents and preaching to millions worldwide. Shelby Lindsay reports from our Washington bureau.
It'll be hours until the people in line behind me will be able to pay their respects to Reverend Billy Graham. For Arizona residents Crystal Van Dyke and Jamie Woolridge, it is well worth the wait.
Today's climate, when you hear all of these scandals going on, we just thought, you know, this is somebody who lived out his faith, who was about saving souls, sharing the good news, and I thought that's a rare opportunity to take time out to come pay respects.
As they waited to pay their respects, the two women from Phoenix shared what Graham meant to them.
Just a pillar of our faith in our generation.
Graham is only the 4th civilian to lie in honor in the U.S. Capitol, and the first to do so since Rosa Parks was honored here in 2005.
Graham will lie in honor in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda until early Thursday morning. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Shelby Lindsay, Cronkite News.
The Sound of Music calls for a celebration.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how this local family keeps their native culture alive through dance.
Rain brought cooler temperatures to the valley, but will they warm up? I'll tell you when, and then your complete forecast coming up.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
The World Championships of Hoop Dancing brought Indigenous tribes from all across North America to the Valley this month. One local family is showing the world the importance of their native culture, and they're doing it through dance. Lillian Donahue has the story.
I'm part of the Duncan family, and we all hoop dance.
More than a dozen dancers spanning 3 generations make up the Duncan clan, an Apache family that's devoted their lives to using dance as a way to keep their culture alive. After months of intense practice, 10 family members showed off their routines at the World Championship of Hoop Dancing in Phoenix. The youngest, less than 2 years old. 7-year-old Tizak was not afraid during his first competition.
I'm usually a comedy guy. I like to do funny stuff.
In hoop dancing, the circle represents the circle of life. Now, the dancers can use from 4 to up to 40 of these to make different designs of everything under the sun, from eagles to horses.
More than just a dance, hoop dancing is a sport with intricate moves and fast footwork. The family travels around the world with other Native performers, hoping to preserve and share their tradition.
There's a lot of people on this earth, and a lot of them might not know about our culture.
The Duncan dancers have
consistently ranked in the World Championships for years, but beyond merit, this year had a special family touch during the final round.
The song that I'm going to sing is a song that I actually created myself for my whole family. In Apache, the words say how beautiful they dance through the hoops.
In Phoenix, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
Great job, Lillian. This year, 2 Duncan family members finished in the top 4 in the youth and adult divisions.
For the first time, astronomers have glimpsed the dawn of the universe 13.6 billion years ago. The glimpse consisted of a faint radio signal from deep space. Team leader Judd Bowman of Arizona State University says the signal came from the very first objects in the universe. Scientists theorize they are seeking the effects of dark matter.
So rainstorms and cool temperatures hit the valley yesterday.
But Matt, is this weather going to last through the rest of the week?
No, thank goodness. And we only got 1/4 inch of rain here in town in Phoenix. But you have to take a look at this picture from Arizona Snow Bowl in Flagstaff. They got 9 inches of snow, they tweeted out this morning. It looks so beautiful there right now. Of course, it drops, that whole system dropped temperatures across the state. We're a dozen degrees below average for our high temperature for this time of year today. And you take a look at the system, it's completely gone. There's not going to be many clouds for the next week or so as they've fizzled out beyond the state. As let's take a look at what you should expect for tonight. Clear skies, 56 degrees if you're heading out tonight. Tomorrow morning, you wake up, it'll be about 40 degrees. But it'll be a good day to go out to a spring training game tomorrow. 69 degrees your high, 75 on Saturday. We continue into the mid to upper 60s and low 70s over the next week. From the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Matt Kling.
Thanks so much, Matt. The month of February is coming to a close, and with that, so is Black History Month.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how one firefighter takes inspiration from the first African-American firefighter in Phoenix.
Fridays, it's at Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then join us for at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh, each Friday at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
Answering just one call can save a life. In honor of Black History Month, reporter Imani Stevens follows Captain Courtney Jenkins with the Phoenix Fire Department to tell us about his call to service.
A lot of the calls we go on don't end up in a good way.
Captain Courtney Jenkins did not expect a career in firefighting.
So I went to the police department first, went through their process, and I guess I scared them. They thought maybe I was a little too dangerous, so they sent me to the fire department. You know, experience is not something you can read. You have to live it.
When the call comes in, Captain Jenkins and other firefighters have to put on all of this gear, weighing at around 60 pounds. But often, the challenges faced on the job weighs more than the gear.
Sometimes the first and the people who kind of give people exposure to your culture.
In 1994, the Affinity Group was established, naming themselves after James Wesley Robinson, the first Black firefighter with the Phoenix Fire Department. Robinson joined in 1953, not only making history, but breaking barriers.
Numbers are few here.
Captain Jenkins says that J.W. Robinson was not only strong physically, but in his character.
When he first came to the station, one of his stations that he would sit out back to eat, and the other guy sat inside. You're talking about in the 60s. So eventually, over time, one guy's come out there and sit with him and eat. The next you know, two guys are out there sitting with him and eating. The next you know, the whole crew is out there, and they finally looked at each other and went, "This is stupid. Why are we sitting outside?"
Captain Jenkins joined the force 2 years after Robinson's death, but Robinson's strength lives through Captain Jenkins.
I'm gonna run until I can no longer run. Then I'm gonna walk. And then when I can't walk, I'll crawl. And then when I can't crawl, I'll fall. But I'm gonna fall facing the direction of trying to do something, get something done. We have to be at our best. We don't have a choice.
Captain Jenkins says he lives by the motto, "It's better to give than to receive."
Public service is just my path.
A path that will soon be changing direction. Captain Jenkins plans to retire this September from the Phoenix Fire Department after 26 years of service. In Phoenix, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, get a recap of the special primary election in Congressional District 8 and state legislative leaders explaining why a code of conduct is needed for lawmakers. It's the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. On the fire line, women in the U.S. Forest Service speak out, saying they have endured gender discrimination and sexual abuse for years. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.